Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to our entitled people, where people truly think it's all about them and who cares about anyone else, right? And in today's episode, Nightmare Karens are causing trouble in restaurants, guys. They're stealing, throwing tantrums, calling 911, and one scummy Karen family endangers their son to get a free meal. It's such a head shaker for sure in this one. So sit back, relax, and please remember, guys, this voice right here should only be on the Dark Fluff YouTube channel, nowhere else. Let's dive in. So I manage a restaurant, and last night I was closing. We have this young-looking couple come in 9 minutes before we close. Now I know it was 9 minutes because I looked at the clock and it said 9:51. So obviously everyone's annoyed. And before y'all get on me about customer service, anyone in this industry for a decent amount of time knows how it is. People showing up a few minutes before closing straight up ruins your night. So that said, my one employee walks up to me and tells me he's not sure about this couple's IDs. He brings the IDs to me and one ID doesn't look legit at all. The girl was from Texas and the guy from Nevada. I'm checking both of the IDs and I just saw some things that didn't look right. I'm not saying they were for sure, the IDs could have been valid, but it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I walk over to the table and I let them know, and obviously they start this whole shebang. Until the girl says, "We just left Brick House because they didn't accept our IDs, and now you're telling us we can't get a drink here? Do you even know how to do your job?" Which was pretty stupid of her to say, honestly. So I call Brick House and I speak to the manager. I ask if they just sent a couple home, and the manager says the same thing. The IDs didn't look like they were valid, so he didn't serve them. I go up and tell the table this as well, and by this point, we're closing in 2 minutes. So I got really happy because I know at this point it didn't matter. I went to my bartender and I tell her, shut the TV off, shut everything down, let me handle the couple so we can get out of here. I went up to the couple and I told them about the call, and this girl gets super offended. She decides that she wants to call the cops so the cops can come and check her valid ID to prove she's 21. Now I let out a chuckle because I thought the whole thing was ridiculous. I told her, go ahead, I'll wait. And I just go about doing the rest of my closing stuff. Sure enough, she sits in the booth and she calls the cops, and the cop pulls up maybe 10 minutes after we're closed. I explain the situation to him and he tells me if I don't want to serve them, it's my right. But he checks their IDs anyways in his system, and lo and behold, he can't find anything on the one from Nevada. Anyways, after the other ID checked out, the girl looks at me and she says, "I told you, you just wasted our time for nothing. So go get me so-and-so drink and we're just gonna order." And that's when I got really giddy. I just said to her, "Hey, we're actually closed now, the bartender's gone, and we can't serve alcohol after closing time. Not only that, but all my servers are gone and my kitchen's closing down." Hearing me say that, she literally looked like I slapped her across the face. She then starts arguing with me, saying we didn't give them a chance to order anything, and I just said, "Ma'am, if you had just put in your food order instead of calling the cops and turning this into a whole thing, it would have been fine, but we're closed now." Anyways, long story short, they called in. They left a really long, angry voicemail, and I had to talk to my proprietor, his boss, and his boss's boss and explain the situation to them. They think I handled it professionally, so I'm not in trouble or anything. But it just made me happy to win a battle in this industry for a change. Now that was a great ending, guys. And seriously, you gotta love it when people think that by them calling the cops, that they'll immediately be on their side. Like, yeah, Karen, the cops can prove your ID's legit, but they can't force us to serve you. And if you guys thought that post was a bit over the top, well, we're just getting started. Listen to this next post. So I had an absolutely phenomenal Saturday. Big parties, high checks, happy guests, except for this bitch. This one Karen that I now hate. So let me tell you the story. This party of 4 comes in, and as I greet and get the drink orders, I realize that we waited on this woman last week and she was absolutely horrendous. But I just thought to myself, whatever, maybe she had a bad day or something. The first thing was they all start barking drink orders at me, like out of order and at the same time at one point. I had to stop them and be like, hey, I'll start with this lady right here. I then drop off their drinks, and as I'm putting the drinks on the table, this one Karen gets snappy, and she starts barking a food order at me. I of course completely ignore her. After I finish dropping the drinks off, I politely say, I'm sorry, you'll have to repeat all that, my hands were full. They then all proceed to order absurd amounts of food. Each of them got 2 appetizers, an entree, and had 2 desserts. They wanted the desserts brought out with the entrees, which, of course, while it's weird, is a strange request that I fulfilled before, so I'm like, whatever. When the app order comes out, I see our food runner standing at the table while this lady's screaming something to them. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, my poor runner. So I hustle over and I lean into this woman and I ask, is everything okay? She gives me attitude and she says, well, first of all, I ordered buffalo wings, not the chicken tenders, but it's fine. I'ma eat them anyways. Just know I won't pay for it. I refuse to pay for something I didn't order. I start furiously pulling out my notebook because I very vividly remember this conversation I had with her, where she ordered 2 chicken tenders, and I asked if honey mustard and barbecue were okay. And she asked for extra sauce, and I made a note that she asked for extra sauce. So of course, I slap on that smile and I say, my apologies. While I'm here, can I confirm I have the entrees right? Thinking, this Karen's not gonna pull one over on me. You effing ordered the food you're getting. That all said, they eat their appetizers, entrees, and the desserts come out. I go and check on them and they say everything's fine. 5 or 10 minutes later, this Karen waves me down. I walk over and half their plates are eaten, and she says, first of all, and this is when I stop her and I say, actually, second of all at this point. She goes on and says, whatever. She then points to every single plate on the table and she starts listing things saying, this is dry, this is burnt, this one has way too much sauce, blah blah blah. She's spewing all this BS to my face, and I can already see where this is going. So I say, let me get my manager. I explain the situation to my manager, and he comes over. Their bill's over $200, and they're refusing to pay for any of it. This is after they sat here, getting 2 rounds of drinks, appetizers, and ate half of their entrees. My manager offers to comp a few of the entrees, which is more than fair, but that's not enough. I'm busy taking care of 2 other tables, so when my manager leaves to deal with the check in the server station, I see these people get up and try to leave. The bouncers stop them at the door, and this Karen, this bitch, decides to call the cops on the restaurant for refusing to let her leave. The cops show up and they hear everyone's side of the story. In the ensuing scuffle, this Karen spits on one of the bouncers in his face. So my manager has her charged with assault and she's immediately arrested. This is probably the trashiest, most garbage table that I've ever had the displeasure of serving. Once again, a Karen who thinks that by calling the cops, they'll take her side when they come. Like not when you're attempting to dine and dash, ma'am. Enjoy your night in jail. That said, like with the way they orchestrated things and ordered all that food, it's got me believing that they've done this kind of stuff before and they've gotten away with it. And the top comment of this post says, next time she comes in, tell her you don't serve animals. And if you thought that post was bad, this next post, a group of 11 tries to scam a restaurant. Listen to this next one. Okay, so this was by far the most ridiculous encounter I've ever lived through as a server. I hope you guys deem it worthy. I work for a busy Italian, family-owned restaurant in my city. I've worked at almost 10 different restaurants in the past 15 years, and I've gotta say, this is by far my favorite. I'm also friends with the manager in this story, and while I definitely got burned, I really feel bad for what she had to endure. A little background first. It was about 7:30 p.m. on a Friday night when a party of 11 walks in. Of course, they don't make a reservation. Now, it wasn't a slow night by any means, but it started to slow down at that point, so they miraculously didn't have to wait that long for their table. I was the most seasoned server out of the three of us, so my manager told me I would be taking it. The party sits down, and they're missing 3 people from their party, which is no big deal. I get the drink orders, and I ask if they want appetizers. This is when the guy at the head of the table pulls me to the side, and he says he's gonna be a pain in the ass, but he wants a pitcher of water for himself and a large pepperoni pizza cut into 16 pieces. We usually cut pies into 8 slices, so this isn't a huge ask or anything, but I'm starting to get the feel for how these people are going to be. He also puts in an order for fried calamari, well done, no banana peppers, which I thought, no problem. I put the order in and I get their drinks. By the time I get back to the table with their drinks, the rest of the party has shown up. It's a woman with 2 small kids, both looking to be under 5 years old. As I'm trying to get her drink order, her kids are screaming in my face, literally saying, "Smell my breath, smell my breath." The mother does absolutely nothing to quiet them down. Now, I normally love kids, and parents love me because I actually interact with their kids. I go out of my way to give them special things. I just love making kids happy. But these 2 demon children were getting into my space and not even letting me talk. So from that point on, I decided I would just ignore them. Their mom didn't seem to care either way, and I don't have the time to be doting on a couple of brats anyways. By the time the table's ready to order their meals, they end up ordering 6 entrees. But with the pizza and calamari, it didn't really seem that weird to me. I put their food in and I bring out the pizza and calamari. They order some bar drinks at this point, so I put those in the computer and I tend to my other tables. I drop off the drinks 5 minutes later, and that's when one woman literally grabs onto my shirt as I'm walking, and she says, "These calamari are rubbery and cold. Get us a new one." I of course apologize, and I take the plate from the table, and I go inform my manager of the problem. She says, no big deal. She gets a new one fired up, and she says she'll bring it to the table. At this point, their entrees are coming up, so I run the rest of their food to the table, and I explain the calamari will be out shortly. Now, I was starting to suspect that something was off about them because I delivered the calamari myself. It looked fantastic, and it just came out of the fryolator. As I'm delivering the food, I glance at the kids because they were still screeching at the top of their lungs. And lo and behold, the kids are throwing pieces of bread at my other table, and the mother still not giving 2 F's about it. After I drop the food off, I head to my other table and I profusely apologize. They were regulars, and although they're not happy that their dinner was being interrupted by awful kids, they did sympathize with me, as they could see that this table had me running around ragged. After the table had left, they admitted it was actually kind of entertaining to watch, and they actually left me a 150% tip. But back to the table from hell. My manager drops off the calamari, and instantly, the entire table erupts into a tirade of complaints about every single entree on the table. My manager offered to remake them, but they declined. She offered to take them something else. They also declined. At this point, they had also eaten more than half of each plate, so she told them she would only comp 3 of the dishes, so half of what they ordered. But since they refused to take anything else, and they hadn't had a problem with eating that much food, she was unable to comp the rest of them. She even told them she was risking her job just doing that. And that's when she recognized the guy at the head of the table because he pulls crap like this all of the time. They argued for a good 10 minutes in the middle of the restaurant. Literally, all of the adults at this party were yelling at my manager, while these two children just screamed and screamed and screamed. My manager was sweating, and I could tell she was very uncomfortable. She just said, "I'm sorry," and went back into the office where she erupted into tears. I felt so bad as this was my table, but these people knew what they were doing. They knew my manager would bring out the appetizer, and they all cornered her and verbally attacked her. At this point, she tells me she's not gonna comp any more food, and if they say something when I drop off the check, to come get her. I go back to the table and I ask if anyone wants desserts or more drinks. They all say no, so I bring over the check and walk away. About 2 minutes later, I see them all arguing, and one of them signals for me. She said that my manager was supposed to take off 2 more entrees. I said I would get my manager, and I go back to get her. She then grabs the kitchen manager, which is a big dude, and they both go out to talk to the table, who have all gathered by the door at this point. They argue with my manager for another 10 minutes about not wanting to pay for anything, and my manager wound up giving them the owner's email address and told them that they could take it up with him. That's when one of the women says they aren't paying for the 2 entrees and that she was calling the police if we were going to force her to pay. After some more back and forth, this woman digs through her purse and she throws cash at me and she says, "Keep the change." And I count it in front of her. They paid the exact total of the check, leaving me an 11-cent tip. They left and I went to the back stunned. I said something to a coworker and she was like, "You should really go say something to them." Now, I'm probably one of the least confrontational people alive, and working as a server for 15 years, it's a cardinal sin to ever bring up the amount of tip a table leaves you. But these people made my manager cry. So I say, you know what, I'm going to. I walk out the back door and I chase them down the parking lot. I have no idea where this came from, but I confronted these awful people and I asked if their service was bad. The one spokeswoman, the Karen of the group, said, "You know what, your service was actually great, but your awful bitch manager should have taken the last 2 dishes off the check, and then you would have gotten what you wanted. You can thank her for your generous tip." That's when I said, this isn't how this works, and this is my livelihood. I didn't expect them to pony up any cash, but it was definitely satisfying to call them out for it. They just laughed at me and they continued walking to their cars. Anyways, they get in their cars, leave, and that's when a cop shows up. We explained the situation and he laughed. He just said if they ever come back and gave us a problem, to give him a call, and he left his cell phone number. They ended up giving us a 1-star Yelp review. But the good thing is the owner said if we recognize anyone from that party in the restaurant again, to let a manager know and they'll be escorted out. They're officially banned from his establishment. So that's my story. F scammers, F trash people like this. I have no idea why a free meal is worth so much trouble, but I'm so effing glad my restaurant won't be allowing these specific ones back. Listen guys, after dealing with that nightmare table, an 11-cent tip is such a slap to the face, isn't it? And for Karen to be like, "Oh, you can thank your manager for that crappy tip. She should have given us 2 more free entrees." Like, excuse me, but you can go pound sand, ma'am. Like, there's not enough bad words in this world that I can call you at this point. And this person says, "I have a cousin who pulls this crap, and I refuse to go and eat with her when she visits. It's disgusting behavior, and it's embarrassing for me to be at the same table when she pulls complaints out of her butt." The final straw was I had a steak slightly overdone. And I found out after we left that she went back and she complained about my food that I paid for, and they gave her a gift card for it. So here's a little backstory. When I was 22 years old, which is way back in the early 2000s, I found a decent job as a server at a brand new Olive Garden that was built in my neighborhood. It was great. And after a week of on-site training in the empty restaurant, we had a grand opening. The local community, as well as all the staff, were super excited. It was incredibly fun to open a restaurant that everyone's been eagerly waiting for. Fast forward 6 months, everything's going great, and we're constantly busy as we're the new restaurant in town. Overall, my life as a server seems to be going great until this family comes in. It was a Saturday evening and I was on the closing shift, and you already know that Saturday evening is busy as heck, and we were no exception. There was a 45-minute wait all day, and I'd been working 6 tables since the start of my shift. Halfway into my shift, I get an 8 top in my section, which is fine by me, as this means A, more tips for me, and B, 2 of my 6 tables would be pushed together, which means less work on a crazy busy night. I see my table being sat by the hostess as I'm getting refills for another table. She hands out the menus and then walks back to the drink area to let me know that she sat my 8 top, that she previously warned me was coming. The family consists of an older couple, mid-50s, and their 3 adult sons, the youngest being in his mid-20s and the 2 older sons' girlfriends. There is a worrisome look on the hostess's face as she lets me know they're gonna be a handful. I find out later that they were incredibly loud and rude, that they had been expected to wait, and they decided to take out their frustrations on the poor teenage girl that was hosting. I just thought, no worries, this isn't the first hangry customers I've served. I immediately head to the table. I make my usual greetings and I offer a wine sample and I ask if I can bring them some drinks. That's when the mother looks at me with flaming daggers spewing from her eyes and she says that would be great, since that idiot up front left us waiting for almost an hour, she says. I apologize for the long wait and I take their drink orders and I promise I'll get everything on the fly. I rush back to grab every single one of their drinks, and I'm back within 2 minutes with 7 sodas, 8 waters, and 2 margaritas. The mom's now impressed, and the mood around the table has begun to get a little lighter, or so I thought. After delivering everyone their drinks, I begin asking if everyone's ready to order. Most are, but the mom and the youngest son have some questions about the food. I thought to myself, no worries, I know this menu like the back of my hand at this point. I'm casually talking with them, trying to get a feel for what type of dish they're looking for, which basically amounts to, we want lots and lots of pasta and lots of cheese. And none of that weird Alfredo with spinach in it, which I completely understand as I hate the soggy spinach at the bottom of the Alfredo. It's just gross. After hearing them out, I recommend the 5-cheese baked ziti. As anyone who's eaten it can tell you, it's definitely the most pasta-filled / cheese-filled dish on the menu, and honestly, my personal favorite. The mom proclaims, yes, that's definitely what we're looking for. You are such an attentive waiter. I'm thinking waitress, but I'm blushing at this point. I thank her for the compliment and I let them know that their food will be out quickly. I bring out their salads, get refills, and my nightmare table is now happy. Like happiness is bubbling from this table. In my mind, I'm like, boom, I'm a rock star. I just turned the entire mood of this table around just by being my usual helpful self. So who's awesome? This gal, that's who. That is, until the entrees arrive. I bring out everyone's food, and at this point, I have to have another server helping me, as it's a ton of food. Everyone's still beaming, but that's when I notice the younger son has a smile on his face. And I'm like, okay, that's weird, but the table's still doing good, so I don't really put much into it. I ask if everyone's good. They are. And then I head to the kitchen to pick up an order for another table. I'm back there for about 3 minutes when I hear commotion coming from the dining area. I of course rush out to find the youngest son is gagging and clutching his throat as pink hives appear on his neck. And I'm thinking, holy crap. The mom's behind him, patting him on the back, trying to get him to hack up whatever it is that he ate, while the rest of the table looks horrified. I rush to the table to ask if he's okay, and I tell them I'm going to call 911. Before I can get to the phone to make the call, the mom stops me, and her son magically stops coughing. She turns to me and she vomits hellfire, saying, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I tell her I'm calling an ambulance as clearly her son's not okay. She gets pissed at this point and she says, "You think I can afford an ambulance just because you're incompetent? Go get your manager this instant." So I run to the manager's office, and at this point, I have no idea what the heck is going on. But I'm not gonna start questioning things now, as I'm 22 years old and not the brightest in this regard. The store manager and the assistant manager are both in the office going over schedules for the week. I explain there's an emergency, but the woman doesn't want to call 911. Instead, she's demanding to speak to the manager. They ask me to stay there and they rush to the dining room. I waited in the office for what seemed like hours, having a panic attack because literally I couldn't figure out what just happened. Like, was he allergic to something and not know about it? Like, what could it be? The oregano, the spices, I don't know. I was on the verge of tears when the store manager comes back in and she's effing livid. She starts screaming at me saying, "Now why would you recommend the ziti to someone who has a severe allergy to pasta and cheese?" Hearing her say that, I respond, "Wait, what?" In my mind, I'm trying to wrap my head around the BS hurricane that I'm now facing. She goes on and says, "The ziti. They said they told you their son had a severe allergy to pasta and cheese, and they asked you for a recommendation to accommodate him, and you suggest effing ziti?" At this point, I'm like, whoa, you need to calm the F down. I take a deep breath and I begin explaining what happened. I say they never said any of that. In fact, they specifically asked for which dish had the most cheese and pasta. And right about now, it clicks that they just want free food. I tell my manager I'm pretty sure they're doing this for a free meal. Like, why would a person who's deathly allergic to pasta and cheese come to Olive Garden? I'm attempting to reason with my manager, who's now red-faced. She then takes a deep breath and she says, "Well, you're gonna be paying for their meal from your tips, and after your shift, you will be let go with a formal reprimand." And I just thought to myself, oh, heck no. This table had a bill that went over $200, and I currently made $3 an hour plus tips. I look my manager dead in the eyes, and I muster every ounce of courage I possibly could. And I say, "Go F yourself," and I leave her office. On my way out, I can see the family laughing and talking like normal. The son's hives have completely disappeared. They see me and they shoot me the most smug smiles I've ever seen. I smile, wave, and flip them off on my way out the door. I have no idea what happened after that, and honestly, I don't care. So yeah, in one night, I went from having the most supportive job I'd ever had to having my entire world turned upside down. The pay was bad, but I genuinely enjoyed my work. And it sucked to have a boss who was so cool before completely turn her back on me in favor of these con artists. Holy moly, guys, like the things people will do to get free food at a restaurant, right? And it totally sucks that the manager sided with Karen on this instead of listening to her server. And this person comments, "For future reference, always call 911. They can't refuse you calling. They can refuse the ambulance, but to do that, they need to tell an EMT face-to-face and sign a form saying that they're refusing medical treatment, but they can't stop you from calling. Also, that manager sucks. You were, quote, supposed to know that they were allergic when they made no indication of it and specifically asked for lots of pasta and cheese. So what, are you supposed to assume everyone's allergic to everything? This is the stupidest effing crap I've heard in a long time, and I've heard some dumb stuff. Yeah, in my opinion, the manager totally should have taken a calmer approach when talking to OP instead of blowing up at them like that. And I do understand it's a crazy situation to be in, but the manager losing their cool like that doesn't help anyone. And on that night, not only did they lose a great server who loved their job, but they also lost to a bunch of scamming Karens. Shame on them. Guys, let me know your thoughts on this post. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed yesterday's episode on the channel, it's an r/petty revenge episode, where people are getting back at those who've wronged them, and the stories are so satisfying. Guys, go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.